application, and one of the boxes was, what's your salary range? And it's this big dance of, I don't want to price myself too low, and I don't want to price myself out of your range. Is there any way to navigate that process better, or is it just always going to be awkward? By the looks I'm getting from you, it's always going to be awkward.
Yeah, that's a strange.
I think again, it just kind of goes back to the research and seeing what type of salaries people are making with that job. So as long as you've done your research and you know kind of ballpark range what you could be making, I think that then gives you a pretty good perspective as to what you should be plugging in that box when it's asking you.
And you can make it very broad. And, you know, people say, you can make the range 40,000, 50,000. I mean, you can make it broad.
The other thing is that I do think that everyone needs to be prepared for that question, because sometimes it's part of the screening interview. And so they're just trying to find out, are we even close to being on the same page before we think about advancing you? So I was just meeting with our recruiter here on Seattle Youth Campus, and that's a standard question that she asks in the screening interview. So even if it's awkward, I think that's why it's important to have the research done, and again, to know where your bottom line is, and then try to strategically set the range where maybe your bottom line is sort of, I don't know, at the lower end of that, so that you know you're not going to, at least they know where your cutoff point is. So, I mean, there are different ways of navigating that, but I think it is a really important question. So,
Well, and I would say know that you're not in it alone, right? So call a colleague who works in that job, or call someone in career services, or talk through it with other folks who are working professionally, because it's not you and the internet that are left to kind of figure out what the answer to this question is. So talk to people.
LinkedIn is a good way to, go find out who on your LinkedIn connections has a similar position, or you can also, I've helped people get jobs elsewhere in the United States where they linked into people and said, I'm thinking about moving to Chicago, and I'm curious about cost of living in Chicago, I'm curious about neighborhoods, and got a ton of information because they were friends of friends via LinkedIn, and they got all the information they needed to make some pretty sound decisions.
Glassdoor.com is also a great website. You can actually drill down by company and then look at jobs within that company, and it'll give you the range of people. Now granted, it's people who have actually logged into this website and done the work of setting up their profile, so it's a little bit maybe biased, but it does give you a pretty good range of those positions at those specific companies. I don't know if that exists in Merit, I just know it exists in Merit.
I've used Glassdoor.com, a lot of my clients use it, and it's a good resource. There's also kind of a blogging part of Glassdoor.com that will tell you where you don't want to work potentially and why.
It's the employment version of RateMyProf.com.
Yes.
It really is. So you do have to take it with a grain of salt, but if you see trends that are very continuous about certain companies and organizations, it might be something to pay attention to. So I'm getting close to the time where I want to open it up for questions, but I did want to toss the question out about any success stories that you've had, or any experiences, whether it was on your own negotiations for salary, or if you interviewed a candidate who did a really good job of this, and maybe what are some takeaways and tips and tricks from those stories?
I'll just throw out a couple of things. One is I do want to say that it's really important to get your final offer in writing. So just, I think you probably know that, but just to make that explicit. And then as far as my own personal experience on both the hiring side and being hired, I've been given that statement about this is the top of the salary, and that actually wasn't true. So, which is kind of an odd thing, right? Because you don't want to say, well, I don't know if I believe you. But so for me, I kind of stumbled into that because I came up with a list of 5 other things that I was going to negotiate, and was using the fact that they could work with my salary as part of how I was leveraging the other pieces. And then the person came back and said, well, actually, we found some more money in our budget, and so I guess I just want to say there, just to try to be really creative about this process, and there's so many things that you can negotiate. I think Ryan has a list, and I could probably talk to you about other things, but so just to think really broadly about it. I mean, it could be, like for instance, for me, I need to be licensed as a counselor, so even looking at, do you pay for professional development, will you pay for licensure, can we do a flexible schedule, if you plan to go on for more education. So there are a lot of, there's just a lot of things that you can negotiate that are actually financially significant.
Especially anything that isn't taxable is really great. So if, you know, if there's a benefit that is worth a couple $1,000s and it isn't going to show up on your tax form, that's a really nice benefit. So I always, when people, when I made offers, I always sent out a written offer and then the benefits booklet, and then I always scheduled a time where I would call the person and say, okay, do you have any questions? You know, first of all, you should have received this on Monday, and I'll call them on about Tuesday or Wednesday and say, do you have any questions? And if I couldn't answer their questions, I would either have the hiring manager or somebody on my team call them back. So I think people expect you to ask questions and see things in writing.
If you have an interest in other things outside of your specific position, so let's say you're a resident director, but you have a passion around teaching, or you think you might, or something like that, you could potentially negotiate into your contract being able to teach a class through another department on campus or something like that. And maybe they give you a little bit of release time so you can work with the department and teach, but then you might also be able to leverage a teaching stipend from that department. So it could be a way to include some additional, I don't know, not necessarily professional development, but like a different kind of professional joy, let's say. And at the same time being able to like maybe garner a chunk of money that isn't available to you through the position itself.
I've got a couple of different examples. The first thing, and I haven't gotten a chance to talk about this, but one of the things that we don't necessarily talk about negotiating quite as much is negotiating identity. And so for folks who are coming to the table with subordinated identities, especially ones that are invisible, that's its own negotiation process. And so I encourage folks to think about what that means. Part of this comes up as an example of being fairly confident that I was not moved forward in a process because people knew that I was queer and I had a male partner and it was a live-in position and they weren't going to be able to offer live-in benefit to us. And so instead of getting to that point and making an offer, I think that I didn't move forward in that process. And so there are elements around negotiating identity that are very real in this entire process. I think there's, specifically for queer folks, when do you out yourself in that process to say, well, you do offer live-in benefit, but it's only for spouses. So what does that mean in this state where being a spouse isn't an option? And is that possible? And that happened to me in my search out of SU too. Was I was offered a position, and they were like, "Yeah, you, not him." And I was like, "Oh, awesome. Well, that's in your non-discrimination stuff." And they were like, "Yeah, it doesn't matter. Sorry." And so, and I was pretty floored by that because I had done my research and had been engaging those conversations throughout the process. But identity shows up as something that you do need to negotiate, and I mean that kind of on this level, but also looking at the benefit of the institution to yourself in terms of that kind of personal rejuvenation. So does the campus have people that you find to be mentors? Right? That is a benefit that is never going to show up in a benefit booklet, but will by and large shift your experience. If you are able to work with a supervisor who can really kind of guide you and mentor you into your next role, and you get the sense through your, like, I'd be willing to work for a lot less money if I know that this person's really gonna make me a better professional for better or worse and over the course of the next couple of years. So really thinking about identity in those ways, I think is something that I would encourage us to think about. And then a couple of quick stories. I know a director who knew that the position salary range. Now this person was leaving a position that was maybe making $55,000 or $60,000. The salary range for this new position started at 80. And I think they maybe offered this person 85, and I was like, but you didn't take it, did you? I was like, and literally this person just said, like, is that negotiable? And they said, oh no, that is our starting offer. They said there's a lot of room for negotiation in that. And that person was like ecstatic that there was a starting range, that they were qualified for, that they had an offer. Like, that's changing your life. $20,000 is going to change this person's life. But they literally were like, no, that's just our starting offer. We can do at least 5 more. Like, that was part of the conversation. And they were like, but why don't you come back with what you think would be most reasonable? Yes, please. So there's that. There is this fool, I know, her name is Kate Schnurr. She works at Pacific Lutheran. She took a job at Willamette University while I was working there. She negotiated to start a semester late so she could go on semester at sea so that I could do part of her job for a whole semester. But she came in, was very transparent about that. I was like, Kate, how did you get a job that you didn't have to do for a semester? And I ended up doing for you. But she came in through the process being very transparent and saying, you know, I'm planning to do semester at sea. I really think there's a great value for this institution. I'd love to liaison with students who are interested in the program. Blah, blah, blah. She sold us all. And collectively, as a division, we said, no, Kate's the one. Like, we'll take it. And we literally collectively divided out the work of her job for that next semester, knowing that she'd be coming in a semester late. It's a unique experience, and it's definitely a unique story, but it really speaks to how if you don't ask, you're not going to get it. And she could have just waited and done her search, and she was prepped for that. Prepped for waiting, you know, not getting a job, you know, but lo and behold, we were suckers. And Kate's one of my really good friends to this day. So, and then a brief story for me. There wasn't a lot of room for negotiation in my current position, but one of the things that I was able to negotiate was new carpeting. Right, so like I joke, but like you can negotiate anything, whether it's time away, a different start date, vacation time, I've got a wedding plan, whatever. You can negotiate anything from carpeting to positions for your spouse. So I know somebody that negotiated a position for their spouse sight unseen on campus. That doesn't happen until you're a little bit better, but I'm just saying.
I was able to actually negotiate on campus living. At a previous job when I was working at Regis University, the Department of Residence Life Housing and Event Services was looking for another event services coordinator, and I applied for that job and took it. And during the interview process, they were informing me that they had just been given this brand new apartment complex that was just a few blocks away from campus that they were going to open up in the fall for graduate students who were in the accelerated nursing program and the School of Pharmacy that was just starting up at Regis University, and that for the time being, they didn't know how they were going to have professional staff oversee it because they already have their other 4 resident directors on campus already. And so during the interview process, I just let them know that, you know, hey, I've got experience as a resident assistant. I was an RA for 3 years during my undergrad. If this is something that we could talk about in the future, and you need another professional staff in the office to oversee graduate housing, like, let me know. When I got offered the job, we went into negotiations, and I got a 2-bedroom apartment out of it, plus a little extra money on top of that. So then I was like, cool, so I can move out of my apartment, not pay rent, get a little bit more of a pay rate, and a free place to live. So it's golden.